Good afternoon. Thank you all for coming to this really cool event. I appreciate you all being here. I know everyone has busy schedules. It means a lot to see all of you here, whether you've been incentivized by your instructors to come or not. I'm just so glad that they're here. But I especially want to thank our students who have very courageously volunteered themselves to be out here to share their stories and experiences with us today, and to just talk about the experience of their own experiences with disability, both in life at large and in the college setting. I frequently say to instructors, they will ask me questions about an accommodation or working with a student, and I very often will refer them back to the student and say they are the best resource for what they need or how they can be helped, or for insight on something. So that's really what we're doing today. And you will hear from our all-star panel here in a few minutes. I just want to give you a little bit of background information about students with disabilities at Carroll. We have a little over 350 students on record with the ADA office, which is our office. Our office provides accommodations to students with disabilities at the college. Those disabilities include a very wide range of visible and invisible disabilities. We have students with autism and Asperger's syndrome, attention deficit disorder, blindness, brain injuries, deafness, learning disabilities, various physical conditions, illnesses, psychiatric disabilities, PTSD. And one of the things this panel has got me kind of thinking, I would like to do something like this again in the future with some of our veterans who are here at the college. So there's a lot of potential for these this kind of format. As I mentioned, some disabilities are very visible and others are not. The number I mentioned earlier that are on record with our office, those are only the students who have come forward to self-disclose that they have a disability and requested some kind of accommodation or have made themselves known to our office. There are countless other individuals on campus with disabilities, students and staff, who just have not disclosed. The thing that I always like to share with people is that disability is the only population that any person can join at any time in their life. And in fact, many people will as they get older. There's illness, injury, certainly our bodies change with age, biochemistry changes. So it's a perspective that we should all be in tune with, of course, and I'm sure many people here, if you haven't had experience with disability yourself directly, then perhaps somebody in your family, a son, daughter, brother, sister. So it's a very prevalent perspective, experience, and yet it's not talked about a lot because some people are very uncomfortable about it. They're afraid that they might say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. And I always say that it's a very fine line that we have to walk in regards to disability, because I think you may hear some of our panelists say today that the only thing they really want is to be treated like everybody else, because they are like everybody else. But at the same time, we have to be aware of the different needs. Sometimes, certainly the need for access is incredibly important, and hence the federal law where our office title comes from. So that's a fine line to walk, to treat somebody the same as everybody else, but to be aware of this difference and to be sensitive to it. So hopefully these guys will help us shed some light on how we can do that. So if we could have a quick round of applause, and then we'll turn it over to So we're going to start with Chuck here on the end, and Chuck is just going to introduce himself and kind of talk about his disability and his experiences, and we'll kind of move down the line.
Hi guys, my name is Chuck KINNEY. My major is I'm with my associates in CAD, computer-aided design and drafting. I expect to graduate in fall of 2015. I've been coming here on and off for 9 years now. I'll tell you a little bit about what I used to do. I worked construction with my father, and pipeline construction. And I worked hard and partied hard. That was life to me. I always thought I'd never go to college because I just worked construction my whole life. I felt fine with that. But then things changed a little. I got in this wheelchair because of an automobile accident. I was riding with a buddy in his Jeep, and coming off 795 onto 695, going left towards Towson, it makes a kind of sharp left, and somehow we hit the Jersey barrier wall, and I didn't have my seatbelt on, and I flew out of the Jeep, and after the Jeep hit the wall, and I got thrown from the Jeep. I landed on my head, and they originally flew me to shock trauma with a brain injury, and 14 days later, after I was in shock trauma, I had a spinal infarction, which is a type of stroke to the spinal cord, and that's what really did my physical. I'm lucky in the sense I had a brain injury because I don't remember anything for, I was almost exactly 6 months I was in a coma. So I don't remember a lot of the bad stuff that happened to me while I was all the infections, and it was a mess. My mom and dad told me. So that's why I'm in the chair. Some obstacles in life. Learning, I guess, that I'm not in control. The Lord's in control. And learning that I had to learn everything over again. A lot, how to read and everything. In school, finding like a learning style again, since I didn't address that too much in high school because I barely graduated. I was going to work construction my whole life, and just how to be the best student you can be, being in tune with what you're attempting to educate yourself with. Going from right to left-handed was very difficult at first because I didn't want to do it, and then I learned that I didn't have a choice. It became very easy after that. My biggest obstacle has been myself. Like I said, I've been here for 9 years off and on, and my alcohol and drug use, it slowed me down a lot, and I did it to feel better, and in the end it made me feel worse, and so I'm back where I should be, and especially in alcohol. I took 3 years off and I was stuck in the bottle and trying to escape reality. And reality is I had this life, you know, you gotta live it. So, some misunderstandings of people, some misunderstandings that people give us, well, I can speak for myself, me being in a chair is when people talk down to you, kind of like you're 5 years old because I'm in a wheelchair. Oh, he's in a wheelchair. It is, it's humorous. You know, everything will be okay. But yes, I'm human too. I'm 33 years old, and I'm a grown man. I know what's going on. And more with the misunderstandings is, you know, I don't, just because I'm in a wheelchair and, you know, I don't like for people to do things for me. If I'm able to do it, you know, show me how to do it. Don't do it for me. I want to learn, you know, I want to get smarter. I don't want to be stuck in a wheelchair and just sitting there, you know.
Well, Chuck, can I just jump in real quick? Just something very telling about Chuck's character and to speak to that. We have a study room near our office, a distraction-reduced study room that our students use. And Chuck had been using this for almost 2 years. And we had a printer in there, and it was set up on top of a shelf. So the printer is about this high. And it never even occurred to me that this might be difficult for Chuck to reach. Well, Chuck had been using the room for almost 2 years, and then finally, a couple weeks ago or so, Chuck came to me and said, "Is there anything we can do about the height of that printer?" So for however long that was, almost, you know, 1.5 years, 2 years, Chuck had been raising his chair and maneuvering to do the best he could to reach this printer without asking for somebody to change or asking for help, which just speaks to his determined spirit. And something I can't believe I forgot to mention when I was introducing all these people, and then I'll give it back to Chuck here. The reason these students were selected is because they are our ADA club student leaders, but they are also academically successful. They all have a GPA of 3.1 or higher. Some of them are much higher than that. So Chuck is a great example of an academic success story, a turnaround, because he did have the struggles, and now he's up there. So go ahead, Chuck.
And it only took me 2 years to ask for it. All right, where were we? My Carroll experience has been great. Everyone's, you know, willing to help you. You know, if you ask for it, if you initiate yourself, if you want it, and they see that you want it, they're gonna help you. You know, they're gonna help you regardless. But, and I think that kind of goes for everybody. Is you know, just general in life, people are more willing to help you if you want to help yourself, if you're showing the initiative to succeed, disabled or not. And you know, everybody needs help with something in some way. And I think asking, you know, for help and you know, it's such an easy thing. You know, I don't know why people don't do it more. So thank you guys for listening to me.
I'm Bob. I'm kidding. Bob McCourt. I'm a student here. I'm getting my general AA in December. I'm gonna finally finish up. I've been here since 2005. Like him, I quit school. I flunked out of 3 classes, and I said to hell with it, pretty much. And I tried to do whatever job came my way. Didn't work out too well, so I'm back. Maybe to stay, if you're unlucky. But no, I'm actually going to Stevenson in January for accounting to make a lot of money. Just kidding. I've worked myself back up to a 3.1699999 GPA, and that's just rounded off. When people ask me what my disability is, I tell them it's not my hair, it's gorgeous. It's probably my mouth, I talk way too much. No, actually, my disability, I've never been properly diagnosed. I've gone through 6 major surgeries, starting when I was 4 days old. I was born as a blue baby, and I wasn't getting enough oxygen to my brain. Not that I use it nowadays anyway, but I wasn't getting enough oxygen because my blood flow was reversed. So they actually cut me open my heart, switched the great vein, great artery, and closed me up, stitched me up. Actually, you know that medical glue you can buy for like little cuts? Back then it was in the beginning stages. I was a guinea pig, I am glued together. And it actually worked. I did flatline on that table, but the joke's on them, I came back. So that's one of the things. I've had 3 reconstructive urinary tract surgeries, had a hernia removed, and had an abnormal growth on my spine when I was in middle school, caused 2 things of scoliosis. Now, all those things are surgically corrected, so you think, okay, why is this guy here? I actually have tremors. My hands shake. I say it's because I'm just that awesome, but it's not true. Your turn next. See ya. Okay, so how old was I when it came about? My parents say I was like 7 months old when they first found out, like first realized it. Doctors have came up with so many various names and tried to find so many cures that I say goodbye, I'm fine with it. So there's really no name. People think it's genetic, people think it's nerves, which is funny. After a beer or 2, my tremors stop, which is weird. I can actually have proper balance when I drink. Unfortunately, I like to spend like 99.9% of my time sober. So it's that makes your life rough, you know, when you're sober. No, I'm kidding. In all reality, though, my disability is with my hands. It really affects all the small things you don't think about. To be perfectly honest, I could not tie my shoes until I was right out of high school. I knew how to, couldn't get my hands to work. couldn't tie my tie, and I used to work as a shoe salesman, so I got these zipper ties. And the joke was if I got to wear a noose for work, on that time it's not. But then I learned how to do it. I actually do it the best in my family. It's kind of funny. I didn't have training wheels on my, well, training wheels came off my bike when I was like 12 because my balance sucked. And I wasn't allowed to drink beer at that time, so I really could not. No, I'm sorry. I don't know. I don't see it as a disability anymore. It's a way of life for me. Most people will look at me and go, "Oh, that must suck." I look at them and go, hey, they aren't like vibrating with awesomeness. They need to work on that. I don't know. It's just the way it is. So you learn to live with it.
It's not too hard, we don't have a choice.
Yeah, you don't have a choice. You roll with the punches. And so, with all the people I met with disabilities, I have to say, well, one of the most common misunderstandings I have found over the years is people will look at you and judge you if you have a visible disability and go, oh, that person is weak. That's not true at all. Actually, people with disabilities are the strongest people I know because they have learned to cope with what life throws at them. They are able to roll with the punches. You know, I don't get upset when it takes me 3 minutes to tie one shoe. I can't. It takes too much energy to get upset. So you just keep rolling with the punches, keep doing what we do, and so, I mean, that's one of the biggest things to learn from people like us, is you can look at us and say, yeah, you have a disability. I say, no, we have a certain challenge in our life that we have learned to overcome. For instance, here at Carroll, because of my writing, it's horrible. I've had someone say it looks like Arabic before. I can't even speak Spanish, let alone write in Arabic, so I don't know what they're talking about. So, when I was here in 2005, I got a note taker. That was helpful. Gives me extra, sometimes I get extra time on tests. That's really helpful also. And these guys, Joe, Kirsten, actually everybody here at Carroll staff-wise is so helpful. They're willing to work with you, but you have to work for yourself first. You are your own advocate. So when it comes down to a person with disabilities, don't look at them like they're some kind of weak person. They're probably stronger than you think, maybe not physically, but they offer a lot of knowledge and wisdom, and I don't know, if you just listen to what they have to say, you'll actually learn a lot. I know I have, and I have a disability. I mean, or disability, whatever. I don't know. The experiences in life aren't easy for us, but that's what makes us stronger. So,
I'm always very proud of the fact and enjoy advertising that Paul works up in the academic center. So as new students come in, I say, oh, go see Paul. He'll help you. He'll get you squared away. He'll show you where the forms are, and he does a really good job up there. So we're proud. He's thankful. He's willing to be a part of our ADA club and do things like this. ARDIS.
That's a very tough act of all. He is awesome, don't let him tell you any different.
Man,
My name is Ardis Van Horn. My major is actually ECE, early childhood education. I would like to go into special ed. I hope to graduate this coming spring, and then I'll probably stay here to continue my education so that I can transfer to Stevens, and that's my plan. My disability, I have a learning disability, and as long as I've been alive, I've basically struggled with speech that you can't tell now. Everybody knows me now, knows that I can't stop talking. I have trouble shutting up. I love to talk, but it took me a long time to learn how to talk, and that's one of the first signs of dyslexia, which I didn't realize until doing my own research. I wanted to find out why everything was hard for me. Why when I look at a word, even though in my mind I know what it is and what it means, why I couldn't say it. I couldn't decode the sounds. And reading out loud is very hard for me. Being able to, I have a hard time taking tests. I get very nervous and a lot of anxiety because I have this high expectation of for myself. That's one thing that with individuals with disabilities, regardless of that, you push yourself to the point where you wouldn't think anybody else would. Because you have to study 3 times as hard to get a C, you want to study even more than that to get that A. I have a 3.5 GPA. When I first came to Carroll in '97, I was afraid to take credit courses because I knew I couldn't take tests because I was afraid I would fail. That's not an option. Failure is not an option for me. I have to do good. I have to perform. I have to prove, not to anybody in this room or anybody here at Carroll, but to myself that I am competent to perform to the task that has been given to me. And to overcome my weaknesses and to let what has been hard, to use that to teach others how to make it easier for them. That's one reason why I want to go into special ed or do one-on-one or be a resource teacher in the public school one day. My disability basically has impacted my life. You never realize how hard something is until you really have to do it. And there's something that everyone in this room has something that they struggle with. On a day-to-day basis, I have to reteach myself how to decode words, how to pronounce words. It's kind of funny, I have a kindergartner, he's got the type of his reading class, and I'm like, okay, remind me what word you're looking at, is that was or saw? And for me, it's kind of, my kindergartner knows the difference, and I have to teach myself on a daily basis the difference between the two and decoding those simple words. So it's a humbling experience, but it makes me want to work. It makes me want to be brave. It makes me want to be not afraid to walk in my own skin and not to be afraid of my disability, but to be proud of all the things that I have accomplished. And a misunderstanding, and it's not only here at school that I get this. When I applied for a job, you would think, okay, maybe you should write what you don't do so well on your application. When you have a disability, the last thing you want to write on your application doesn't spell so well, you know? And then you misspell the word well. You're probably not going to get the job. So it's kind of hard to write that on an application. And then you go into the interview, I'm like, well, spelling's probably not so good, but I work really hard and I have a spelling dictionary, you know? And then you probably get the interview. And then when you finally are on the job for a few months, you finally get the courage to sit down with your boss. You know, I have dyslexia, and then all of a sudden your boss starts not talking to you so much. They realize you have a disease. It's called dyslexia. I was like, wait a second. It was just the word I didn't know how to spell. It's not contagious, I promise. So it's hard to overcome not being self-conscious when people hear the word learning disability and things that you don't do so well. And to realize that you have so many strengths and you have so much more to give. I am such a friendly person. Everybody here at Carroll says when I'm in their classes that out of anyone they want to study with, they usually want to study with me because I'm so outgoing. And I bring life to the, Paul usually is, Paul's very lively as well. We're live wires. And that's a strength that we have. We're all live wires, and we want to utilize our strengths and bring it to the community. And let's see. Out of all the, here at Carroll, I can honestly say my experience here at Carroll is amazing. I've been going here since '97. You guys have taught me that I am able to accomplish more than I could. And that's a lot to say for a Carroll Community College, that when my husband was going here, you guys were just building the main building. And for me to take so long to come to Carroll and to have the courage to come, and you guys to support me to push for an education, that's something that not everybody has an opportunity to do, to get an education, regardless if it's something that's easy for the person to do or it's hard. And my family, even though I have a disability, a learning disability, I will be the first one with a college education. You know, that's one thing I have to tell everyone, regardless if you have a disability, whatever is in your way, there is nothing more important than learning all you can learn, because that's only giving you tools to teach others and to better yourself. And if I can tell you anything to take from here is to push yourself to be the best you can be. It's not a Marine saying, it's an Ardisism.
Thank you, Ardis. That's if there's nothing else that that I would say to take from these students talking today. Every day I get perspective from these guys. You know, you're annoyed by morning traffic, and then I'll come into work and I'm meeting with a student who's had to go get chemo before they're going to class. You know, and they really put things in perspective. They have jobs and families, and as Ardis said, it may take them 2 or 3 times longer to produce the same result that it might take a non-disabled student a half hour to do. So it gives they're a great source of perspective and insight for us. So with that, we're going to turn it over to Nathan. Nathan, it's all yours.
Thank you. My name is Nathan Clark. I am blind. Kind of obvious. The cane kind of gave it away. My major is criminal justice, and this is my last semester here at Carroll. I've been here since August of 2010. I will be going to Louisiana Center for the Blind in March of 2014, which is an independent training program for the blind that teaches independent living, cane traveling, job skills, and other important needs that a lot of you guys take for granted. But you know, as a blind person, I had to do a lot of things differently. Not to bore you with my medical story, I have 4 eye disorders. I have aniridia, which is small eyes, so when you look at me straight in the eye, that's why my eyes are small, it's because of the aniridia. I've had 50 eye surgeries in 11 years, 12 years of my life. I went partially blind in 1998 after getting struck in the eye by a baseball. And then in 2001, I bursted a blood vessel after coughing too hard. I coughed in the middle of the night, so I did not know that I was totally blind. So I woke up the next morning and realized, oh crap. And then that's when the surgeries began. I went to Johns Hopkins first, and then I went to Women Eye Institute, Walter Reed Medical, because my parents were in the military, so I went to the military system. Oh God. Yeah. Then I went to Michigan because all the hospitals here in Maryland realized that they couldn't do a thing with me. And so I've been in Michigan doing I have 2 eye doctors in Michigan. They've been dealing with me for 9 years now. And I've had a total of, 50 eye surgeries. I know, 50, 50, yes. And I had all of those before the age of 13. And I was blind, my first surgery was when I was 9. So I had I was averaging about 10 a year there for a while. I missed a lot of school. I actually missed the entire second half of my 3rd grade year, because that's the year I've been blind. And then in 8th grade, I missed quite a bit of chunk of time because I was having eye surgeries in Michigan, so I wasn't going to school in Maryland and having eye surgery in Michigan. It wasn't gonna work. I don't think my teachers would appreciate me doing work while I was under drugs and anesthesia. But whatever. So, as a blind person, I have dealt with a lot of issues. I have to, use a cane. I know I probably tripped every single one of you in this room, at least more than once. Some of them purposely, probably. Probably shouldn't have said that. But whatever. So that's that. I use this thing here. It's called a brown note. It's a miniature computer for the blind, they tell. It's a lot more than that. It's about $8,000, so if I ever got this stolen, I'd be in a shitload of trouble. I'd have the Maryland State Department of Rehab on my behind. Well, whatever. So I use Braille. Yes, that big thing with bunch of that pop thing. Yeah, that thing with bumps. Yeah, that's me. So I learned that. I was taught that in 3rd grade. The average blind person usually learns Braille in about 4 years. I mastered it in about 6 months. Yeah, 6 months. It was pretty good. I pretty much got it shoved down my throat because I was totally blind, so I was losing my vision, so I had to do something. So I wasn't gonna, be a totally blind guy and using print. So I pretty much got it shoved down my throat by the school system and my parents. Thank them now. I was having eye surgeries and learning Braille at the same time. Oh boy. So I have had a lot of troubles with school. My textbooks are huge. I don't know that you guys probably can't tell, but when I was in high school, my geometry textbook when I was in 10th grade was 72 volumes in Braille. 72. It took up the whole entire classroom pretty much. Yeah, 72 of them. Yeah. Whatever. So that was that. Obstacles? Wow. Every day is an obstacle for me. Anything from people not pushing the chairs in to, whether or not I make it to school on time because the bus is late. Things like that. to, eating. I know it sounds kind of weird, but eating is very difficult for me. When I first got totally blind, I had no vision, so the only way my parents thought it would be easy for me to be able to eat my food was if they actually had to tell me. So it was kind of embarrassing now looking back that I had to do that, but so I had to do things. Some misunderstanding about blindness. A lot of people think that people who are blind are somehow deaf. It's kind of weird. People like to get up in front of me and yell. I'm like, Jesus Christ. I can hear better than every single one of you in this damn room. Whatever. I don't even get a microphone. People can hear me. Whatever. So, I can hear a pin drop now. So I've had to deal with a lot of things in my life. Do I feel bad for myself? No. I deal with it. I'm probably never going to gain my vision back. 50 eye surgeries in 12 years, it hasn't done anything for me. A lot of people ask me, why do I have so many surgeries? Well, if I knew that, I wouldn't have 50 eye surgeries. Don't know that. I have a plastic cornea in my eye, so, which pretty much, they took my cornea, my doctors had to take my cornea out of my eye, because I was damaged. And it was probably going to destroy my eye. So, whatever. That's how that worked. So, it's just, the one thing that I want people to take out of this is that don't think that just because I'm blind I can't do anything you can't do. I can do the same schoolwork, I still can travel, I can still enjoy life, and just because I can't see what you're doing or what I'm doing doesn't mean that I shouldn't be treated differently. So, that's it.
Thank you, Nathan. I think anybody that knows Nathan would tell you he's got one of the brightest outlooks, and he brings humor with him every day, and even when I tease him about football, he's good natured about it. So he offers a lot. So our next person up here is Amy, and then after we hear from Amy, we're going to kind of open it up, and if people want to ask questions or have comments, we have some time to do that. So I just wanted to mention that now, but we're going to hear from Amy first.
Hi everybody, my name is Amy ADER. This is my third year at Carroll, and I'm studying early childhood education. I don't really have any powerful stories like the rest of the panel that we just heard from. I haven't had any surgeries, so I don't want to bore you, but Miss ARDIS over here, I'm going to be reiterating everything that she's kind of said, but I'll give you some examples. My disability is a range of different things. When I was in first grade, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. I had occupational therapy for low muscle tone. I could not, holding a pencil was like holding something rubbery, it just fell out of my hands. I had to go to physical therapy for my eyes, for vision therapy, that was vision therapy. And I had to basically learn to read, because whenever I read or wrote something, my brain just hurt. I would be exhausted after reading a paragraph. I also have a slow processing speed. So for example, if a teacher has a PowerPoint on the board and we have to take the notes, for me to look up at the board, read the paragraph of what I need to write, think about it, put it down in writing, the teacher's already moved on to another slide. So it's really frustrating. So I have this thing called a Smart Pen. I try to use it as much as possible. It records all of my teacher the whole time of what they're saying, and I can also write into a book that's special that will take notes, and I can plug it in my computer. I can just print out my notes, which is really cool. My disability has impacted my life ever since I was in first grade, like I said. I've had to work twice as hard, like RD said, at everything that I do. Every day I'd be taken out by a resource teacher and be taken into a small room that I would work one-on-one with her on extra stuff. I went to private school and they had Spanish, so I never learned Spanish, never had to take it in high school. I can't imagine. If I can't read our language, I don't know how I'm supposed to read another language. But yeah, I would get extra help, and back then I didn't really understand when I was being taken out of class, when everybody else was in class. So I didn't really, like, that was kind of weird. But then as I got older, in middle school and high school, I started to understand, like, okay, this is what's wrong with me. This is why I need to work harder, and how to work harder with everything. And I would start going to my IEP meetings. IEP is Individual Education Plan, which is consisted of objectives. Everybody on this panel has had an IEP that is their personal objective that they want to meet. And my parents and my teachers would gather like once a semester for that. And my biggest impact of my disability was math. Going through, it was like elementary school to middle school, it was a reading problem. And finally I learned to cope with my reading problem with dyslexia. And then it turned into dyscalculia, which is a problem with math. And I was right now I'm not really able to get my bachelor's degree because of the math classes I have to get, or I have to take. Because to be a preschool teacher, I have to take statistics, college algebra, geometry, mathematical measurements and structures, all at Carroll, and then I probably have to take more at Towson. So, like, long word problems are impossible for me to do. I go to a tutor. I pass statistics with a C, but I went to a tutor 3 times a week for 2 hours each night, and I passed with a C. But it's when, like, I take my test, and it's like I have all this. It's like my head's like a filing cabinet, right? And you open up the file during the test, and nothing's in there. But when you're practicing at home, you know everything. I knew everything, so I don't know what happens during a test. It's just not there. The most common misunderstandings for my disability for dyslexia. I hate it when I explain like what's wrong with me, and people say, "Oh my gosh, I have that too." I'm sorry, no you don't. You have an IEP then. And I also hated when people say, so you see letters backwards? No, I don't see my letters backwards. I can't really describe how my dyslexia is. Like RD said, I can read it in my head, but it doesn't come out that way. And I don't know why. Last night, my mom and I were researching what's wrong with my brain, and we finally realized, what was it, Mom? Do you know what it was?
Oh.
I'm sorry to put you on the point, but somewhere right here in my brain is what's wrong with me. This area right here. My experience at Carroll has been amazing. I'm so thankful my accommodations. I get extra time. I get time and a half on tests and quizzes. I get extra notes, like if I need my professor to print out my PowerPoints ahead of time so I can keep up with my classes. That's really helpful. I've always had to self-advocate for myself, so that's my biggest thing. If I need extra help, I'm not afraid to ask for it. I will stay after for my teachers for extra help, or I'll ask the person next to me if slide has moved on too fast for a PowerPoint. Hey, can I look at your notes? I didn't get to write it down. Students with learning disabilities aren't stupid. Our brains just function differently. Everyone learns at their own speed, and you need to be patient with us. And I'm not mad or upset that I have a learning disability, because now I'm working with kids with autism, and I had a resource teacher when I was little, and now I'm being a resource teacher. So it's kind of cool to work my way up and be helping kids that when teachers help me, now I'm helping them. And I've just fallen in love with kids with disabilities and autistic kids, because I can relate to them, so I can show them. I was like, this is what I had to go through, and I can show them better the people that don't have disabilities, sort of, and they can relate to me.
So if anybody wants to start thinking about maybe a question to ask these guys, you know, they spoke about some common misconceptions that are out there. If you have something you're wondering, Kirsten will bring the mic to you unless you have a big booming voice and you don't need it. And I forgot to thank Kirsten Myers at the beginning. She helped set all this up, did the room arrangements, communication.
Hello? Yes. Thank you. I just wanted to tell all our panelists, all our students, thank you so much. I am so proud of you all for being here. So thank you. When Joe and I started talking about this as a possibility, I was like, I don't know. I think the students will do it. I'm like, well, you know, being new to this role, I wasn't sure if they would do it either, but we talked to them and they didn't hesitate. So thank you all. You are all an inspiration, and I love working with you all. Okay, so questions?
I have a comment. I also have a big voice. I happen to know the two early childhood education people because they've been in my classes. But I would like to tell you about Amy. Last year, we have the Elizabeth Little Excellence Award in Special Education for Field Experience. And Amy worked very hard in class. She got wonderful grades. She had 100% attendance. And she went out and worked with children with special needs, which she ended up with a job there, too. And Amy was our winner of the Elizabeth Little Award. And I just want you to know that all her hard work was put to good use there, so.
Thank you. Anybody else have comments or questions for our panelists?
I have a pretty loud voice too.
Okay.
So when someone isn't sure what's going on with you, do you want them to ask? Do you want them not to ask? How do we approach it that makes it the best for you?
I'm pretty open with my disability. Like, I'm not afraid to tell anybody about it. I've learned a lot through the years about it, so I'm not afraid to tell anybody. I'm not, like I said, I'm not upset that I have a disability, so I'll be open. I'll answer anything about my disability. For me, you can just ask. I don't know how everybody else is.
Yeah, I'm the same way.
I'm the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
We want you to know that, yeah, we might have a disability, a weakness, but that doesn't define us. We are special and then we are unique, and we have our strength, and we want our strengths to shine. And at the same time you're asking, instead of saying, what can I do to help? Say, what would you like to do? Because we want to help you understand what's out in our way. That's very important when we are like, sometimes we get a needing hand and we don't want to learn helplessness. We're not helpless whatsoever. We're mighty, we're strong, and we're very big thinkers. And we want to help you. And that's our thing, is we want to help you, not the other way around.
Okay, thanks.
I'm gonna just back up what ARDIS said. We are strong people. I mean, we might have a weakness, but that weakness really makes us strong. So yeah, go ahead and ask. Personally, if you ask me, I'll probably screw with you. It's fun.
I love it, so that's good.
I don't take life too seriously because I used to, and I was diagnosed with depression, and I went all crazy, and I act crazy now, but I'm actually sane. That's the weird thing. So yeah, go ahead and ask. Not a problem. I might screw with you a bit, so you are warned.
Well, I'm really screwed.
Yeah.
I would say if you ever see an occasion where you may think somebody with an individual with a disability needs help, to offer but don't assume. You know, that's what I do. I say, can I help you with that? Do you need a hand? And a lot of times it's, no, I got it. And, you know, that's fine, that's good. But if you do see a situation, you know, where it's clearly maybe, like Nathan was talking about, people leaving their chairs out. Now think of that cafeteria over there during lunchtime, and imagine trying to navigate that with a blindfold on with all those chairs out there. So, you know, that would be an occasion where I would step over and say, hey, can I help you get through here? There's a lot of junk in the way, you know. And so just being aware of it, but you always want to offer. You don't just want to assume that somebody needs help in a given situation.
Sometimes it looks like we need help, but we actually have it under control. Our way might take twice as long as yours, but it's just as efficient. But yeah, it's always good to ask, but definitely do not assume.
There's a difference between assisting and doing for. We like assistance and to do something. We don't want you to do it for us. We want to have the pride that we accomplished it. So assistance is different than doing. So just keep that in mind when coming to our aid. We're only asking for assistance, not for you to do it for us.
Yeah, I think everybody seems to be in such a hurry to get things done a lot of the time. And for myself, I just remember to do things a lot slower. Maybe we've always been like that, but yeah, I know you put more thought process in it. It usually gets done a little better, I think.
Anyone else?
I don't need that. Okay. Okay, so as a teacher, I want to be able to help all of my students the best I possibly can. So my question to each of you is, what is something that as a teacher I could do for you to make your experience, your learning experience better? What is something that, like all of us have a favorite teacher. So what did that favorite teacher do for you to help you?
I have to say my favorite teacher was my first grade teacher, and her name was Miss Smith, and she showed me kindness and understanding, patience, and support when absolutely needed. Not when, you know, she didn't teach me helplessness. She taught me to advocate for myself and to know that I have to do things in my time. And to this day, I always say a prayer to her when I have a moment. I go, what will Miss Smith tell me to do? She would tell me to stop and try again. And sometimes that's what good teachers do, is tell their students, I need you to stop and I need you to try again. You're not telling them you're doing it wrong because you don't want to hurt their feelings, but you're telling them to rethink it. And sometimes that brings the right answer out of you.
For me, I didn't really have a favorite teacher because even the ones I didn't really like taught me something about myself. I learned from being in their class. But what the great teachers did was they worked with me and they started to think about the small things. This is really small and most teachers probably don't think about this, but when you hand out a worksheet like this, you may get 2 words from me, maybe. Give me more space. Just little things like that. There's a back to this, and it's not being used. So if you space out your stuff, that'd be good. Also, I think the layout of your classroom, make sure it's accessible. And I say that as a person with disability, but if you make it accessible for a person with disabilities, it's a lot more accessible to everybody. So it's gonna wind up helping out all of your students. Sometimes thinking about the smallest things that might help one student will help them all out.
Yeah, and I would just jump in. One of the trendy buzzwords in education that a lot of people probably know is universal design, which means designing your instruction and your materials and your plans in a way that they benefit the maximum number of students. But the analogy that I always use for universal design is the automatic door. It requires a little bit more investment on the front end, but it doesn't hurt anybody, it helps everybody. You know, not just individuals with disabilities, but a mom, somebody with groceries, a mom with a stroller. So universal design in a classroom should work the same way. It has the potential to benefit every student in that class. It's not hurting anybody in the class. It may take a little extra effort to implement it at the front end, but it'll pay off in the long run.
As Joe said, the universal design, that helps me a lot too, because a lot of teachers, the good ones at least, they say what they're, like when they're doing PowerPoints, they actually say what, what's on the slide, because the bad ones just, they just stand out there. I have no idea. I mean, if I don't have the PowerPoint in front of me in Braille, I'm pretty much clueless. And then when they're handing out worksheets, for me it's good if the teacher just says, what the name of the worksheet is. Definitely, because if you have like 3 or 4 worksheets that we're doing that day, and I could very easily, if you don't say the name of the worksheet, it could take me 10 minutes to find the worksheet in my machine. So just by saying what's the worksheet really helps me a lot.
This has nothing to do with my disability, but teacher-to-teacher differentiated instruction is really helpful for all different types of learners, whether it's a child with a learning disability to a child with ADHD. Differentiated instruction for anybody that's not a teacher is kinesthetic learning, visually, interpersonal, and interpersonal learning, which is like relate the assignment to the person, the child. So anything that has to do with like real life situations, the child will learn from a lot better, and it'll produce long-term memory, and it'll come up on tests. So this is coming back to me, if I have something that if I do a kinesthetic activity or something that's visualized, like I watch a movie, it'll be a long-term memory file for me. When I do go in my filing cabinet, it'll be in there because I did something. It's actually called brain-based learning. Wow, I learn a lot of stuff in my classes. Yeah, brain-based learning, differentiated instruction. That would help.
Yeah, I think you kind of answered the question, answered the question, in saying, you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Like, in just asking questions of what would work best with that person. I mean, here at Carroll, we have to, well, if we want services, we fill out worksheets.
Accommodation forms.
Accommodation, yeah.
Our green little forms, if you ever see us in the beginning of the classes, our green little forms that we hand to the teacher.
Yeah.
That means somebody has a learning disability.
Yeah, because I think pretty much paying attention to them and addressing what's on there, pretty much lays it out.
And don't be afraid for us to clarify what that might mean. Sometimes there might be something new on there. And recently, a year ago, I had Bell palsy, so on top of my learning disability, I have now severe migraines, and anything can trigger them. So sometimes just having a professor clarify what that actually means, maybe what might trigger it, to let us know. I know that there's a professor in here, I can tell you, she makes sure if I'm looking at the screen and my eyes start to twitch, she immediately puts my screen down, and she's amazing. Just that notification gives me, it says so much to me. It says that you guys are understanding what that green paper means, you know, it means that you understand, and that understanding goes a long way. It makes us feel good. I can't tell you thank you.
I also just want to add that, you know, our panelists have shared their disability information with you, but again, I don't want you all that are in the audience, whether or not you're students or faculty or staff here at Carroll, to make the assumption that if you're working with someone that they may or may not have a disability. Our panelists have been so gracious to share their information, but as you know, they chose to self-disclose that they have a disability and to search out for, you know, to come to our office and work with us for those accommodations. But there may be students within your classes and in your classroom that have chosen not to come and work with the ADA office. And so you don't want to make that assumption, and you don't want to also say, okay, well, because, you know, Chuck has given me this green letter, yes, you're going to follow his accommodations, but a good instructor or a mindful instructor would already have their classroom syllabus set up to reach all students. And that's where we go back to the universal design piece, or thinking about all learning styles, because, you know, we talk about that in so many different classrooms. Even in my college success classroom, we talk about learning styles and how to try to capture everyone's learning style. Because each individual person, regardless of disability, has a different learning style. We all have strengths.
One last thing I would like to add before we move on. To be, in my opinion, the best teachers held me accountable for my own work. They understood that I had a disability. They understood I had to work extra hard. But they also understood that I could do it, and I could do it well. So I think in one way you have to be mindful of a person's challenges, but you can't give them so much leeway that they don't have to do the assignment. You have to make sure they do the assignment, because if I didn't do half of, you know, what I have done because I said, I can't do it, I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be the person I am today. So I think being a really good teacher, and this is for people with challenges and without challenges, disabilities or no disabilities, you have to hold them accountable for what they can do.
Yeah, and one of the things, a lot of you may know this, but a change occurs from high school to college. When high school is over, when a student graduates high school, the IEP that Amy had mentioned earlier, that ends, that's done. And the law that provides for special ed or IEPs, it's over with. So students who have support services at the college level, they're provided under the ADA, the Americans with Disabilities Act, which only says that a student has a right to equal access. It's not the same as the high schools, which said the high school has to do everything in its power to help a student be successful. No, so at the college level, a student with a disability, even with accommodations, has to meet the same standards. They have just as much right to fail or succeed as any other student in the class. And except for those accommodations, instructors should be treating them the same as every other student in the class, you know, with the exception of something you may do for any other student. You know, if you would give another student in your class a day extension or you know, go help them with something, then of course do that with the student with a disability. But none of the students with disabilities at Carroll receive any kind of special advantage. And in fact, the accommodation forms that our office provides say very clearly, accommodations may not compromise the essential course standards. So they can't give the students any kind of unfair advantage. And one of the things that I ask teachers a lot is, what is it that you're trying to measure, or what is it that you're trying to have the students learn or demonstrate that they know? And there are multiple ways to find that out. You don't just have to have a written test, an essay, or multiple choice or whatever. There's numerous ways to get at the same result or to discover the same information about what students have learned. So it's a challenge sometimes to think of creative ways to get to assess the students, but that's what it's about. So
Yeah, I think if we're favored, and it kind of puts the point of college, just dismisses it, because then you're not learning. You know, we're here to learn. So, treat people.
And to set high expectations for us.
Let us prove that we are mighty and strong and smart.
That goes for everybody, though.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah,
Not just people with disabilities.
yeah.
Guess it just comes down to, we are one of you.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not alien.
I am.
There's always one in the end, always one.
You had, tie-dye, you had a question?
Okay. Sorry. I was gonna say, like with some stuff, like with the size of the print on like worksheets, sometimes it's hard to read, especially if you choose a different font. But otherwise, you shouldn't really treat us like a lot like differently than any other student.
absolutely. Thank you. Eileen?
Elaine.
Yeah, I'm going to, there's an Eileen here.
Oh.
Hello,
Sorry.
I'm Eileen.
You want to introduce yourself too?
Yeah, my name is Eileen Rudnick, class of 2012, Carroll Community College. Now I'm a student at Good College, and I'm an ADA student. And it took me 7 years to get my associate's degree, but what a wonderful time I had. I had a good time. And I'm having a good time now at Good College also, still an ADA student. And I still get accommodations, very much like I did here, and it certainly helps. I did want to ask you, it's an overall question, it has to do with, you know, the ultimate goal of your life. What do you want your legacy to be? How do you want to be remembered? And could I hear from everyone, please? How do you want to be remembered? What's your legacy? I know it's a tough question, but I think that it's a good thing for all of us to think about that as we go through our lives. How do we want to be remembered?
I want to be an example. Yeah, a positive example.
Positive example.
Yeah, for people when they see hardships, you know, you can do it. It's all easy. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same thing. As I said, I'm going into accounting. It's because I'm really good with numbers, and that's why I teach people how to play with numbers. I'm a tutor here at Carroll. But it's not the legacy I want to lead. Of course, I want to make a lot of money and be rich, but I'm not going to hang on to that money. I want to become a community leader and lead people to move forward in this society. We have so much potential, and I feel when I look at things that we've kind of hit stagnant water, so to speak. We're not moving. And I want to help lead a as an example, doesn't matter your religion. A lot of people know the Judeo-Christian story about Moses. No, was it Moses? I don't know. The guy that split the Red Sea. I should know this. Yeah, I should know this. My mom's a pastor. She'll beat me when I get It's probably well deserved, but
We're doing wrong.
yeah, I know, right? And I thought I was gonna ride her coattails to heaven. Well, I can forget that idea. But a lot of people, if you do your research on that story, no matter your religion, Moses was a leader of the Israelites. He brought them out of slavery, but Moses had a speech impediment. So, I mean, he couldn't speak. He had his brother Aaron speak for him, but he was the leader. So I look at that saying, hey, so I shake. I could be a really good DJ scratching records, but I'm gonna do a lot more with my life. And I've really understood my calling to be a leader in society, to teach, and I'm going into accounting, but I want to be when I retire from that, I want to be a philosophy professor and screw with college kids' minds. Make them actually think for themselves. I know they're probably not going to hire me here. I mean, they just fuck out on videotape. But I think going back to the legacy I want to leave behind is that, you know, I want to be an example, I want to lead. I don't care if anybody remembers my name when I die, because when I die, I'm gone. I'm not even paying taxes. Woo! But, sorry. But, yeah, I know, right? But the truth of the matter is, everyone here at this table, in my opinion, we have a chance to lead and teach people how to live and be stronger people so we can move the society forward. So, that's me.
I find that it's important to let children know that they're important and to be able to be there for them when they need help. I adopted my son, and I think that's the one thing that I'm already so proud of myself for doing, and bringing a child into home that would have not had the life that they would have had if they weren't for someone. And instead of being afraid, well, I was not smart enough to care for a child, looking at what I would be providing for them by giving them a secure home. And I want to do that for more than just my child. I want to do it for all children deserve to have a place of security, a place where they can go, where they know that there are individuals out there that are cheering them along. I volunteer in my son's school, and all the time they go, Nolan's mom is here. Look what I'm doing. They already know I'm their cheerleader. And that's one thing I like to do, is I like to cheer kids along and let them know that they are amazing little individuals. They have so much potential, and to let them know that they are already a shining star in my eyes, and let them know that they have someone there that's cheering them along. And so that they can be proud of themselves, and that they can achieve so much. And that's my legacy, is just being able to give back to the little ones so that they can be the, you know, God's little blessings.
My legacy, well, I forgot to mention in my introductory comments that I am a member of the National Federation of the Blind, which is the most powerful blindness organization in this world. They are based here in Maryland, actually, nationally based in Maryland. So I want to leave my legacy with that organization as being the leader of that organization and changing what it means to be blind. I went to help the organization pass laws in Congress in DC. I don't know, passing laws in DC. Very difficult, but I want to do it.
They can't settle the budget, what are you talking about? You're thinking big, way big thinker.
Hey, I'll stop.
We need Nate down there to do the budget now, too. I'm good, I field trip tomorrow.
Sure it's not Campbell? No, I want to leave my legacy with the NFB. I want to change what it means to be blind because I, as a member of the National Federation of the Blind, have been taught so much and I have been led by many great blind people that I want to give back to the next generation of blind kids and teach them what I learned. And I just want to change the global perception of blindness because it needs to be changed. It's not good. What the world believes about blindness, it needs to change, and I believe that I can help change that perspective.
I think the legacy I'd like to leave behind is that I help children and want to make a difference in each child's life that I relate to. As a teacher, that is my philosophy. Basically creating a safe haven for the children, like already said. You don't know what's going on with their houses, you don't know what their family's life is like, and I'm gonna make a difference in my classroom, so they should have a place where they can come every day, where they can trust who they're gonna be around, and make a difference in the child's life.
Positive example.
So we have any last questions? Another question or two, and then we'll wrap things up. Speak now or forever hold your peace. Well then, could we have one more round of applause for